Hi, my name is Vicki, Sylvain, creator and owner of the Shoe Bee and author of the Chronicles of the Shoe Bee Woman. Today's question was about your first time. Not the first time, but the first time you had your period. What was that experience like?
So it was quite some time ago, but I remember it being as if I was going to die. And back then, parents did not talk about those kinds of things. They didn't discuss that you were now moving into womanhood. They didn't. All they did was just pass you the product and
Like a little
clean you
secret?
exactly, clean you up a little bit. I had just jumped out of bed and saw the act, and so I was just horrified. And it was really interesting experience because my mother was completely unemotional and was not instructional. And that comes from the time in which that I was born. So I'm a part of that generation where we didn't talk about those kinds of things. So I definitely remember. Definitely. Yeah.
What's interesting for me is that my mother talked so much about it before it happened that when it happened, I was just like, oh my gosh, now she's going to talk about it even more. For me, I was actually at school. And I was, always the first at everything, including this. And I was in the nurse's office all day. And I just didn't want to go back to school after that. I thought, why should I have to go back to school ever? No, not just that day, ever. I think that every woman should be able to take the week off. So it was definitely, it was painful for me, physically painful for me. At the time, I kind of had some physical things going on. And so the experience was traumatizing, but the pain I definitely remember just being in the nurse's office. So. Yeah. But after that, it was good. I definitely had a lot of education before, so I already knew what was going to happen. But it was great, and just the reminder, again, like how you talked about women moving from being a girl to a woman, that I think we in this society don't really value that anymore. And just kind of understanding that there's certain things that women do, and there's a difference between girls and women and how we act, and there should be a difference between the two.
Exactly.
That seems to be dwindling now, but hopefully we can come back to that.
Absolutely.
And, I grew up in Swaziland. I'm South African, but it was in the morning. I finished bathing, and I go to my bedroom, and I realized that I have this head stain. So I automatically knew, like Alicia, I had a lot of education about it, and knocked on my mom's bedroom. I was like, do you have pads? And she was like, are you on your periods? I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, is it heavy? I was like, well, maybe. So if you guys remember, wings only started recently, right? My mother, first of all, it was this big. So my mom was like, okay, what you need to do is pack a second on top of that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So my experience, I remember that morning just being like, oh my God.
A diaper.
How do I
Yeah, mine was much like a diaper.
How am I going to walk? Lucky enough,
How are you going to walk?
My dad took me to school. It was 1988. But I was so open with both my mom and dad. And so...
Your dad?
Oh yeah, I used to go to my dad if my parents were out. Like, Dad, I'm out of pads.
Wow.
He was so open. Yeah.
Yeah, my father was.
Not that he would talk about it, but he was literally very open.
Yeah.
And he would be the one that, do you have pads? It's like, yeah. I think he's the one that made me be open. And
just a disclaimer, my dad's Jamaican, so there's just certain things that we just don't do
Culturally,
that men culturally just don't do, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
No.
I think, and for me, I come from a time of an older generation where those kinds of things wasn't spoken of. And I think we've come so far from not talking about it to people, to your parents actually giving you instructions on it. So it really has been helpful. And we as women go through so many challenges, and I think it's beautiful that you, Vicki, have decided to talk about those challenges and talk about some of the struggles that we have, and even in your products, you introduce things that make our life a lot easier. Now, if you can just get a little slit in those bags that we can slide stuff in. Of course, I'm way past that, but it's so nice to have a conversation now about something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Remembering the first time. So it's very indicative to how passionate you are about women, how you love doing things for them and making their lives a little bit easier. And I hope that we continue to have a conversation about that, and about not only about this, but about just all things that affect women.
I wanted to share a conversation I had this week with a woman that I met. We were kind of sitting in the hallway waiting for something, and she's a married woman, and she talked about how she wakes up in the morning and she's thinking about, oh my gosh, what am I going to wear, and what is it that I have to do for today, and what's on my schedule, and what am I going to have for breakfast, and all this is happening in her head as she's laying in bed. Her husband turned on the light and says, honey, what are we having for breakfast this morning? And she just screams like, ah, and he goes, why are you screaming? She goes, it is 5 minutes since I woke up and I've been arguing with myself in my head. How many women have done that, thinking about, what am I going to wear today? I have to go to this thing later on this afternoon. I want to wear sneakers, but then I can't wear sneakers with the dress that I'm wearing. And how does all this conversation happen in our head, because we have to be all these different roles in our lives? Yeah. And the great thing is that the Shubi and all the other products that Vicki has coming is really great, because it helps us to kind of quiet the mind. Yeah. And also when you see a fellow woman who has the product, you get to say, oh, you too? You're part of the club too? Great. So thank you, Vicki, and we're excited to see what you have coming next.
I'm going to bring it back to everybody that's growing up, first of all, in Africa, where I grew up. Because the period is associated to when you start your periods. Sometimes the parents don't talk to you about it, even though I was educated. But the impact was I could be pregnant any day.
Yes.
Any day. So even though
I can bring life. Yes.
Yeah. Even though I was open, to asking for pads, but the impact that it had at the time was the fact that I could bring life anytime, but I didn't have that education. And like everybody has said, that Vicki is actually making products that are making life very easy for girls, young girls, me, girl, woman. So I do hope that you can come up with a product for Africa and actually send some kids to Africa for girls to just put their pads in.
Wow. Something simple like that. Yeah.
See, the thing is, as far as the topic of conversation in regards to pads or the period, it's just so taboo. You don't speak about it. And it's like, but we all go through it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like now it's like, again, 3 days of hibernation would be beautiful. Just to kind of go through it, and then you come back out and you're like, okay, I'm fresh. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like, it wasn't until I had a conversation with Alicia that I found out that, a lot of the things that I've done kind of stems back to that time, which is why I wanted to have that conversation and bring it out. Because it's like, I remember from my time, I was in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my God. I ran out the bathroom with my panties around my ankles, and I'm like, I'm dying. I was like 12. I was like, I'm going to die. And I was like, you're not going to die. You'll be all right. You're not going to die. And then, like, she gave me this little clutch, something that we had hanging around, and then she put the pads in it and gave it to me to go to school. And she's like, no one needs to know your business. Just go. And I'm like, everybody's going to know. Everybody's going to see it. It's going to be embarrassing. And I think that was the one thing I've never wanted to happen, was to be put out there with, when people see in your business, you know, and I think that that's what kind of stems with a lot of different things. It's a case of is being discreet, and it was epiphany for me to realize that that's how a lot of these things kind of came to be. Like it was a case of something that's very natural that happens regardless. And oftentimes when we're stressed, it happens even more. And it's like it comes down, and it's just so many things affect us. You know, like you said, it's an uphill battle for women, and we're still supposed to be scorned.
Yes,
you know,
right.
All these different roles.
Right. And all these different things are happening.
Seamlessly.
So it's like, so it's like, okay, how do we make it easier? But again, I'm just so glad we were able to have the conversation. And we can talk about it and just be open. And it's something not to be so embarrassed about.
No.
And even now, it's like, even if we think about the Cosby Show, when Claire wanted to, like, when Rudy got her period.
Yes.
And Claire was so excited, and she's like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this. And Rudy's like, no. I don't want to do anything. But it's like, sometimes it's like making it a ritual, making it a tradition. Like, let's go out for ice cream. Well, not ice cream, maybe not ice cream. But just making it something where, you know, it's a tradition. It's something that's welcoming, and not like it's something so hush-hush and don't talk about it.
And you won't become pregnant. No, you won't.
But thank you guys so much for having this conversation. It's good. It's like, it's
Like
therapeutic.
Yeah.
Very good.
So please go onto the blog and share your stories. What was your first time like? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.